Ambassador Jiwoo Kim walked slowly through the long hallway toward the main chamber of the Galactic Council. Her black shoes made soft clicking sounds on the smooth metal floor. She carried a small data pad in her hands, but she already knew what it contained. The vote was finished. Earth had lost. The massive doors opened with a quiet hiss, and Jiwoo stepped into the huge round room. Above her head, the ceiling showed stars and distant galaxies through clear panels. Around the circular chamber, hundreds of different alien species sat in their special seats. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of living crystal. A few floated in tanks filled with strange colored water. Jiwoo took her place at the small human platform in the center of the room. She was the only human there. The only human who would speak for all of Earth today. The council leader was a tall, thin creature with purple skin and 4 arms. It spoke in a voice that sounded like wind through metal pipes. The translation device in Jiwoo's ear changed its words to Korean, then to English. The vote is complete, the council leader announced. 847 civilizations vote yes. 12 civilizations vote no. 3 choose not to vote. The decision is final. The species called humans will be removed from all galactic society. Jiwoo stood perfectly still. Around the chamber, alien voices began to speak. Each one gave reasons why humans were dangerous. They fight too much, said a creature that looked like a walking tree. In just 50 years of space travel, they have started 6 wars. They reproduce too fast, added a being made of flowing water. Their population doubles every generation. They will use up all resources. They do not follow rules, complained a robot-like alien with glowing eyes. They change everything they touch. They cannot be controlled. More voices joined in. The butterfly-like Zillions worried about human ships moving too fast through space. The rock people called Granite said humans dug too deep into planets. The gas cloud beings known as drifters claimed humans made too much noise. Each complaint sounded like it had been practiced many times. Jiwoo realized this vote had been planned for months, maybe years. The galaxy had been watching Earth and waiting for the right moment to act. Humans are unpredictable, said the large insect creature representing the swarm worlds. They do not think like civilized beings. They solve problems with violence first, thinking second. Their technology grows too fast, added the machine race spokesperson. In 100 Earth years, they went from flying in the sky to traveling between stars. This rate of progress threatens galactic stability. Jiwoo listened to every word. Her face showed no anger, no fear, no sadness. Instead, something that confused many of the alien representatives began to appear on her lips. She was starting to smile. The council leader noticed her expression. Does the human representative wish to speak? Jiwoo stepped forward to the speaking area. Her voice was calm and clear. Yes, thank you. The chamber became quiet. All eyes, senses, and attention focused on the single human woman standing alone among hundreds of alien species. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Jiwoo began, Earth acknowledges your decision. We understand your concerns. We accept your judgment. Surprised whispers filled the chamber. This was not what they expected. Where was the anger? Where were the threats? Where was the typical human response of fighting back? We know you fear us because we are different, Jiwoo continued. You worry that we cannot fit into your peaceful galaxy. You believe we will cause problems for everyone. She paused and looked around the chamber, making eye contact with representatives from dozens of different worlds. You are probably right, she said simply. The whispers grew louder. Several alien representatives moved uncomfortably in their seats. Humans do fight. We do grow quickly. We do change things wherever we go. We question rules that do not make sense. We take risks that others call foolish. We dream of things that others call impossible. Jiwoo's smile grew a little wider. So your vote today solves your problem perfectly. You will no longer need to worry about dangerous, unpredictable humans disrupting your peaceful galaxy. The council leader leaned forward. You accept the banishment without protest? Of course, Jiwoo replied. Why would we want to stay where we are not welcome? Why would we force our presence on civilizations that fear us? She touched her datapad and a holographic display appeared above her head. It showed images of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, white clouds, and millions of human cities. We have spent the last 30 years learning about your galaxy, Jiwoo said. We studied your histories, your cultures, your technologies. We tried to understand how to fit in with your ways. The display changed to show human colonies on other worlds, human ships trading with alien merchants, human scientists working alongside alien researchers. But we learned something important during those 30 years, she continued. This galaxy has not changed much in the last 1,000 years. Your technologies stay the same. Your societies follow the same patterns. Your problems remain unsolved generation after generation. Some of the alien representatives began to look uncomfortable. You fear change more than you fear stagnation, Jiwoo said. You choose safety over progress. You prefer familiar problems to unfamiliar solutions. She turned off the holographic display and looked directly at the council leader. So today you have made the perfect choice. You are sending away the one species that might have changed things. You are removing the problem makers, the rule breakers, the ones who ask difficult questions. Jiwoo began walking toward the exit. At the doorway, she turned back one final time. You will not have to worry about us much longer, she said, that mysterious smile still on her face. In fact, I suspect you will find your galaxy much more peaceful without humans in it. As the doors closed behind her, the chamber erupted in confused discussions. Something about her tone, her confidence, her complete lack of fear, left many of the representatives feeling uneasy. They had expected desperate pleas for mercy. They had prepared for angry threats of revenge. They had not expected calm acceptance and what almost sounded like gratitude. Outside the chamber, Jiwoo walked quickly toward her transport ship. Her smile had disappeared, replaced by a look of grim determination. She activated her communication device and spoke in rapid Korean to someone far away. The vote is finished. The plan is approved. Begin Phase 2 immediately. The galaxy had made its choice. Now humanity would make theirs. President Ha-jin Park stood at the podium in the United Earth Assembly Building in Seoul. The massive hall was filled with representatives from every nation on Earth. Behind him, enormous screens showed the same image being broadcast to every television, computer, and communication device on the planet. My fellow humans, he began, his voice steady and calm. 6 hours ago, Ambassador Jiwoo Kim sent us news from the Galactic Council. The galaxy has voted. We are no longer welcome among the stars. The assembly hall was completely quiet. Everyone knew this moment might come, but hearing it still felt like a punch to the stomach. However, President Park continued, this is not the end of our story. It is the beginning of a new chapter. He pressed a button on his podium. The screens behind him came alive with images that made everyone in the hall gasp in surprise. Massive ships floated in space, each one as big as a city. They had sleek metal hulls and hundreds of glowing windows. Dozens of these giant vessels hung in the darkness beyond Earth's moon. For 37 years, since our first contact with galactic civilization, we have prepared for this day, President Park announced. Project Exodus has been humanity's greatest secret. Today, it becomes our greatest hope. Dr. Sujin Lee, a woman with gray hair and kind eyes, walked to the podium. She was the chief scientist of Project Exodus, though most people had never heard her name before today. Each ARC ship can support 15 million people for centuries of travel, she explained. We have built 43 ships in total. They contain everything we need to survive in deep space: farms, factories, schools, hospitals, and homes. The images on the screen showed the inside of the ARC ships. Gardens grew under artificial sunlight. Children played in parks that existed inside massive metal tubes spinning in space. Workers built new machines in clean, bright factories. We can evacuate Earth's entire population in 18 months, Dr. Lee continued. Every human being who wants to leave can leave. No one will be left behind unless they choose to stay. Minister Dong Ho Choi stood up from his seat in the front row. How long have you been planning this? He asked. President Park looked directly at him. Since the day we first met the Galactic Council. We hoped we would never need these ships. We prepared them in case we did. Across Earth, the news spread quickly. In every city, in every town, in every village, people gathered around screens to watch the announcement. The reaction was not what other species might have expected. In Tokyo, factory worker Minitsu Yang turned to his wife and smiled. We always talked about seeing the stars, he said. Now we have our chance. In Lagos, scientist Bora Kim looked at her research on faster-than-light travel. Finally, she whispered. We can test these theories in real conditions. In New York, school teacher Yeonju Park began planning lessons about life among the stars. Her students would need to know how to live in space. The response was swift and organized. Governments activated emergency plans that had been secretly prepared for decades. Transportation systems redirected to move people toward launch sites. Factories began producing supplies for the journey. Families packed their most important belongings. But not everyone was happy to leave. Elderly farmer Jin Ho Song stood in his rice field in rural Korea. "This is my grandfather's land," he told the evacuation officer. "And his grandfather's before him. I will not abandon it." The officer, a young woman named Haewon Kim, nodded respectfully. "Sir, you have the right to stay. We will maintain Earth systems for anyone who chooses to remain." Similar conversations happened around the world. Some people could not imagine leaving Earth. Others were too old or sick to travel. A few simply refused to be driven away by aliens they had never met. President Park addressed these concerns in his second speech, broadcast 3 days later. "Earth will not be abandoned," he promised. "Automated systems will maintain our cities, our farms, and our infrastructure. Those who stay will be supported. Those who leave carry Earth with them in their hearts." The evacuation began in stages. First, children and their families boarded transport ships that carried them to the waiting Ark vessels. Then came the scientists, engineers, and teachers needed to run the new society in space. Finally, workers, artists, and everyone else who wanted to join the great journey. Captain Yun Se-han stood on the bridge of the Ark ship New Beginning as the first civilian shuttles docked with her vessel. Through the massive viewing windows, she could see Earth turning slowly below them, blue and green and beautiful. "Captain," said her second-in-command, Lieutenant Minute Ho Song, "we have 15 million people aboard. All systems are functioning perfectly." Captain Han nodded. "Signal the fleet. We depart in 72 hours. In space around Earth, the Ark ships came alive with activity. Engines that had waited decades to be used began their warm-up sequences. Navigation systems calculated routes to distant stars. Communication arrays prepared for the longest journey humanity had ever attempted. On Earth, people stood in streets and fields, looking up at the stars they could barely see in the daylight. Some waved goodbye to family members already aboard the ships. Others simply stood in silence, thinking about what it meant to leave the only world humans had ever known. Ji-woo Kim, the ambassador who had faced the Galactic Council, stood in the Seoul spaceport waiting for her own transport. A reporter approached her with a camera. "Ambassador Kim, do you have any message for the galaxy that banished us?" Ji-woo looked directly into the camera. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were hard as steel. "Tell them we said thank you," she replied. "They have given us exactly what we needed, freedom to become what we were meant to be." 3 months later, the first wave of Ark ships activated their faster-than-light drives and disappeared into the darkness between stars. Earth grew smaller behind them until it was just another point of light in the vast ocean of space. The great exodus had begun. Captain Yun Se-han walked through the corridors of the Ark ship New Beginning 5 years after leaving Earth. The hallways were different now. Children who had been born in space ran past her, laughing as they played games that could only exist in low gravity. Their parents had been teenagers when the journey started. Now they were adults who had never seen a natural sky. "Captain, to the bridge," came the voice through the ship's communication system. "We have something unusual on the long-range sensors." Yunsu quickened her pace. After 5 years of traveling through empty space, anything unusual was worth investigating. She entered the bridge where Lieutenant Minute Ho Song was staring at his control panel with a confused expression. "Report," she ordered. "Captain, we are now 50,000 light-years beyond our home galaxy," Minute Ho said. "We should be seeing nothing but empty space and distant galaxies. But there is something ahead of us. Something big." The main screen showed a view of the space in front of their ship. Far in the distance, barely visible, was a small bright spot that did not look like a star. "How far away?" Yunsu asked. 3 days at our current speed," replied the navigation officer. "But Captain, the energy readings are very strange. This object is artificial." Dr. Bora Kim, the ship's scientist who studied ancient cultures, arrived on the bridge a few minutes later. She was breathing hard from running through the corridors. "Captain, I need to see those sensor readings," she said urgently. "I have been studying the historical records we brought from Earth. There might be something important here." 3 days later, the human fleet arrived at the source of the mysterious signals. What they found made everyone stop and stare in amazement. It was a space station, but unlike anything they had ever seen. The structure was enormous, stretching for kilometers in every direction. Its design was beautiful and strange, with curved walls that seemed to flow like water and towers that twisted toward the stars like frozen lightning. "Captain," whispered the communications officer, "I am detecting power sources throughout the station. Some of the systems are still active after all this time." Any life signs? Yunsu asked. No, Captain. The station appears to be empty. But there are computer systems that are still functioning. Engineer Tai-Minute Jung volunteered to lead the exploration team. He was a young man who had been born on Earth but raised on the ship. Space felt more natural to him than any planet ever could. The exploration team entered the station through an airlock that opened automatically when they approached. Inside, they found corridors built for creatures much taller than humans. The aliens who lived here had been graceful beings with long arms and crystalline growths along their backs. The architecture is incredible, Tai-Minute reported through his radio. Everything is designed to be both functional and beautiful. These beings were artists as well as engineers. Dr. Bora Kim joined the second exploration team. She went directly to what appeared to be the station's central computer core. The technology was far more advanced than anything humans had built, but the basic principles were similar enough that she could understand some of it. Captain, I am accessing their historical records, she reported. The translation programs are working. This species called themselves the HFY. They were, oh my. What is it, Doctor? Yunsu asked from the bridge of her ship. They were banished from the galaxy, Captain. 8,000 years ago. The charges against them were almost identical to the charges against humanity. Back on the ship, Dr. Kim presented her findings to the senior staff. She had spent hours translating the HFY records, and what she found was both disturbing and familiar. The HFY were accused of aggressive expansion, she explained. They explored new star systems too quickly. They built colonies without asking permission from the Galactic Council. They developed new technologies that other species considered dangerous. Commander Jin-Woo Park, the military leader of their fleet, leaned forward in his chair. What happened to them? They died out here, alone in the void between galaxies, Dr. Kim replied sadly. But not immediately. They survived for almost 3,000 years. During that time, they made some remarkable discoveries. She activated a holographic display that showed the HFY's final records. They found evidence that the galaxy has done this before. Many times. Any species that grows too fast, explores too much, or develops technology that threatens the established order gets voted out. The galaxy calls it maintaining stability, but the HFY had a different name for it. Which was? Captain Yunsu asked. They called it pruning the garden. The galaxy removes species that might force change or growth. They keep only the civilizations that are predictable and controllable. The room became very quiet as everyone thought about what this meant. How many species have been banished? Asked the ship's doctor, an older woman named Sujin Lee. According to these records, at least 4 to 7 over the last 10,000 years, Dr. Kim replied. Most died quickly in exile. A few, like the HFY, lasted longer. Did any survive? Commander Park asked. Dr. Kim smiled for the first time since making her discoveries. That is the interesting question. The HFY records mention detecting signals from other exiled species. They tried to make contact, but their technology was not advanced enough to travel the vast distances between exile locations. But our technology is more advanced, Captain Yunsu realized. Much more advanced, Dr. Kim confirmed. And we have something the HFY never had. We have 43 ships full of humans who refuse to give up. Lieutenant Minute-Ho Song looked up from his sensor station. Captain, I am detecting more artificial signals in this region of space. Very faint, very distant, but definitely artificial. Captain Yunsu stood up and walked to the main viewing screen. Beyond the ancient HFY station, the darkness between galaxies seemed less empty now. Somewhere out there, other exiled species might still be alive. Other civilizations that had been declared too dangerous for the galaxy's peace. Plot a course for the nearest signal, she ordered. It appears we are not alone out here after all. As the human fleet prepared to leave the HFY station, they carried with them something more valuable than any technology, hope. The galaxy had tried to isolate them, to let them die alone in the void. Instead, they had found the first clue that they were part of something much larger. Something the galaxy had tried very hard to forget. Retry SF. Admiral Sujin Yoon stood on the observation deck of the New Beginning and could not believe what she saw. In front of the human fleet, planets hung in space around an artificial star. The star was not natural, it had been built by intelligent beings and burned with controlled fusion energy. Around these worlds, space stations and habitats formed a civilization that looked more advanced than anything in the galaxy. Admiral, called Lieutenant Daeun Park from the communication station. We are receiving a transmission. The signal is strong and clear. Put it on the main speakers, Admiral Yoon ordered. A voice came through the ship's communication system. It spoke in perfect Korean, though the accent was strange. Welcome to the Beyond Consortium. We have been expecting you, children of Earth. Admiral Yoon looked at her officers in surprise. How do they know our language? We have been monitoring galactic communications for centuries, the voice continued. We know about your banishment. We know about your journey. We know you found the HFY station. Please, dock with Platform 7. We have much to discuss. Dr. Kyung-ho Lee, the fleet's chief scientist, joined the diplomatic team that boarded the alien station. What he saw there amazed him. The technology was hundreds of years ahead of anything humans had developed. Energy flowed through crystal networks that seemed to draw power from empty space itself. Their guide was a creature that introduced itself as Ambassador Shindar. It had once been a four-armed being with blue skin, but now mechanical parts replaced much of its original body. Half of its face was organic, half was made of gleaming metal and crystal. My people were called the Kathari, Shindar explained as they walked through corridors filled with impossible technology. We were banished from the galaxy 3,000 years ago for excessive militarization and territorial ambition. What does that mean? Asked Minister Haiwon Kim, who led the diplomatic team. We built too many ships. We explored too many systems. We asked too many questions about why the galaxy never seemed to grow or change, Shindar replied. The Galactic Council decided we were a threat to stability. They entered a vast chamber where beings from many different species worked together. Some looked like living plants with crystal fruits growing from their branches. Others were made of flowing metal that changed shape as they moved. A few appeared to be pure energy contained in mechanical bodies. How many species are here? Dr. Lee asked in wonder. 17 different civilizations, Shindar answered. All of us were exiled by the galaxy. All of us were told we were too dangerous to exist alongside civilized species. Minister Kim studied the beings around them. What were their crimes? The Veltar reproduced too quickly, Shindar said, pointing to the plant-like beings. The galaxy said they would use up all resources. The Zenth collective thought as a group mind, which the council called unnatural and threatening. The Mordun were exiled for developing weapons that could destroy planets, even though they never used them. And now you all work together? Minister Kim asked. We learned that survival in the void requires cooperation, Shindar explained. The galaxy taught us that our differences made us dangerous. Out here, we discovered that our differences make us strong. They entered another chamber where a massive holographic display showed star maps of the region beyond the galaxy. Dozens of systems were marked with symbols indicating colonies, mining operations, and research stations. You have built an empire out here, Dr. Lee observed. Not an empire, corrected another voice. The speaker was a being of pure energy that flickered between different colors as it communicated. A consortium. We share resources, knowledge, and protection. No single species rules over the others. How is that possible? Minister Kim asked. In the galaxy, every alliance eventually leads to one species dominating the others. Because we were all rejected for the same reason, the energy being replied. We all refuse to accept limits on our growth. Out here, there are no limits except those we choose for ourselves. Admiral Yoon arrived with the second diplomatic team. She had brought Commander Jin-Woo Park and several other military officers to learn about the consortium's defenses. Admiral, you must see this, Dr. Lee said excitedly. He led her to a viewing platform where they could see ships being constructed in orbital shipyards. The vessels were unlike anything in galactic records, sleek, powerful, and built with technologies from 17 different civilizations. We have been preparing, Shindar explained. For 3,000 years, we have been building, learning, and growing stronger. The galaxy exiled us because they feared what we might become. Soon, they will discover what we have become. You plan to return to the galaxy? Admiral Yoon asked. The galaxy is not the only place where intelligent life exists, Shindar replied. But it is the largest concentration of civilizations in this region of space. Eventually, contact between our peoples is inevitable. Commander Park studied the tactical displays showing consortium fleet movements. Your forces are impressive. But the galaxy has thousands of member species and millions of ships. The energy being flickered with what might have been amusement. Commander, the galaxy has not fought a real war in over 2,000 years. They have grown comfortable, predictable, and weak. We have spent millennia fighting for survival against the void itself. What do you want from humanity? Minister Kim asked directly. We want you to choose, Shindar answered. You can settle on one of our worlds and live peacefully among us. Or you can join our mission. Which is? To return to the galaxy not as exiles begging for acceptance, but as representatives of something new. Something the galaxy has never seen before, a civilization built on growth instead of stagnation. Young Lieutenant Minute Ho Song, who had been monitoring communications, suddenly looked up from his station. Admiral, I am detecting massive fleet movements throughout this region. Ships are converging on our location from dozens of different systems. Admiral Yoon turned to Shindar with a questioning look. The Consortium Council has called for a gathering, Shindar explained. Every member species is sending representatives. We have waited 3 millennia for the right moment to return to galactic space. With humanity's arrival, that moment has finally come. Through the viewing ports, more ships appeared in the space around them. Vessels of impossible design, carrying the combined knowledge and determination of species that had refused to die quietly in exile. The galaxy had created its own enemy by trying to eliminate anything that threatened their comfortable status quo. Now that enemy was preparing to come home. 25 years had passed since the galaxy voted to banish humanity. In the same crystalline amphitheater where Ambassador Ji-woo Kim had once stood alone, the Galactic Council now gathered in emergency session. The air buzzed with nervous energy and fearful whispers. Councillor Vex Theron of the Hegemony clicked his sharp claws against his metal chair. His insect-like eyes darted around the chamber as he spoke to his aide. The long-range sensors show an enormous fleet approaching. Ships of unknown design. Where could they have come from? Perhaps pirates from the Outer Rim, suggested the aide hopefully. Or maybe traders from a distant galaxy. But Vex Theron knew better. Deep in his gut, he felt the truth that no one wanted to speak aloud. The humans were coming back. The Delphinian representative floated in her water-filled tank, her tentacles moving in patterns that showed extreme agitation. This is impossible, she bubbled to her translator. No exiled species has ever returned. They die in the void or fade into nothing. Always. High Counselor Zarthek, the tall purple being who had announced humanity's banishment decades ago, stood at the center of the chamber. His 4 arms gestured for silence as reports came in from across the galaxy. The approaching fleet consists of approximately 15,000 vessels, he announced. Their technology does not match any known galactic civilization. They will reach our space in 6 standard hours. The chamber erupted in panicked discussions. Some representatives called for military mobilization. Others suggested trying to negotiate. A few proposed fleeing to distant systems until the threat passed. Then the lights dimmed, and a holographic figure appeared in the center of the chamber. It was a human woman, but she wore a uniform unlike anything the Council had seen before. The symbol on her chest showed 17 different species united in a single emblem. Honored members of the Galactic Council, the woman said in a clear, calm voice. I am Ambassador Eun Kim of the Beyond Consortium. We greet you. The chamber fell completely silent. The name Kim was familiar to older council members. This woman looked remarkably like the human ambassador who had stood in this same place 25 years ago. The Beyond Consortium, whispered the crystallite delegate. What is that? Eun smiled with the same confident expression her mother had worn during humanity's banishment. We are the civilization you helped create when you exiled us. The 17 species you have banished over the centuries did not die as you expected. We survived. We thrived. We built something greater than any single world or species could achieve alone. Another holographic figure appeared beside Eun. It was Admiral Sang-ho Choi, standing on the bridge of a massive warship. Behind him, the bridge crew included beings from multiple species, some the Council recognized as long-dead exiles. Our fleet carries representatives from every species you have ever banished, Admiral Choi announced. The Cathari, whom you exiled for building too many ships, now design vessels that travel between galaxies. The Velta, banished for rapid population growth, have solved resource problems you never imagined. The Zenth Collective, cast out for their shared minds, have created technologies that make your greatest achievements look primitive. High Counselor Zarthek found his voice. What do you want from us? Eun's expression remained friendly but firm. We want to offer you a choice. The galaxy can join us in building something magnificent, a civilization where growth and change are celebrated instead of feared. Where species are judged by their contributions, not by how well they follow ancient rules. And if we refuse? Asked the Vorthak representative, his mandibles clicking nervously. Then you continue exactly as you are, Eun replied simply. But the universe is much larger than this galaxy. There are other civilizations out there, other species ready to grow and explore and dream. With or without you, the future will move forward. In the viewing galleries above the main chamber, younger representatives from various species watched the exchange with fascination. Many had grown up hearing stories about the dangerous humans who had been banished before they were born. They had always wondered what humanity might have become if given the chance. Counselor Meldara of the Peaceful World stood up slowly. She was an elderly being whose species had always advocated for diplomatic solutions. How do we know you come in peace? Your fleet is massive and heavily armed. Admiral Choi answered from his ship. Every vessel in our fleet carries families, children, scientists, artists, and dreamers alongside our military personnel. We are not conquerors. We are explorers who have found something worth sharing. But your weapons, Vextharan began, are necessary when you live beyond the protection of civilized space, Admiral Choi interrupted. The void between galaxies contains dangers you have never imagined. We learn to defend ourselves because no one else would. Eneun stepped forward in her holographic projection. Members of the Council, your ancestors made a choice 25 years ago. They decided that humanity was too dangerous to coexist with your peaceful society. Today, you must make another choice. She gestured, and the hologram expanded to show images from beyond consortium worlds. Cities that combined the architecture of 17 different species. Space stations where beings of pure energy worked alongside crystalline entities and biomechanical hybrids. Children from dozens of species playing together in parks that existed in the void between stars. You can join us in building tomorrow, or you can remain comfortable in yesterday, Eneun said. But understand this, the age of stagnation is ending. The universe is ready for something new. The transmission began to fade, but Eneun's voice remained clear. We will remain at the edge of your space for one galactic standard month. Any species that wishes to learn about the Beyond Consortium is welcome to send representatives to our fleet. Any individual who dreams of something greater than what exists today is welcome to join us. The hologram disappeared, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Outside their protective stations, the Beyond Consortium fleet waited quietly at the border of galactic space. They were not invaders demanding surrender. They were not refugees begging for acceptance. They were something the galaxy had never encountered before, exiles who had returned stronger than those who exiled them. The galaxy had voted to banish Earth because they feared what humanity might become. Now they faced something far more challenging than they had ever imagined, the knowledge of what humanity had helped others become. In the weeks that followed, thousands of ships from hundreds of species quietly left their home worlds and traveled to the edge of galactic space. They came not as official representatives, but as individuals ready to see what lay beyond the boundaries of their comfortable, predictable civilization. The Beyond Consortium welcomed them all.